Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, I'm just starting the recording. Just give me a second. Okay, thank you.
Satyabhama,
Yes, Maharaj, please.
you let the kirtan go on because there's hardly anybody on. You have to give a
Okay.
chance. No, not now. You've already stopped it. No sense of starting it again. Kirtan should go on for until devotees start coming in. You can actually go 5 minutes over the starting time.
Sure, Maharaj, sure. Thank you. Sure, we'll do that next time.
Yeah, don't cut it off so soon. The idea is you have the kirtan so the devotees can hear it, but if you cut it off before they get there, nobody hears it.
Yeah. Sorry, Maharaj. Sure, I'll remember that next time, Maharaj. Thank you. So we can start. Today's verse is Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 17th chapter, and verse 14. Give me a second. I'll share my screen, Maharaj.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam 1:17-14. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jnanena Gasyagam Yujam Sarvato Shyachya Madbhayam Sadhunam Badram Eva Syat Asadu Damine Krite. Maharaj Parikshit is speaking, responding to Dharma. Whoever causes offenseless living beings to suffer must fear me anywhere and everywhere in the world. By curbing dishonest miscreants, one automatically benefits the offenseless. Purport. Dishonest miscreants flourish because of cowardly and impotent executive heads of state. But when the executive heads are strong enough to curb all sorts of dishonest miscreants, in any part of the state, certainly they cannot flourish. When the miscreants are punished in an exemplary manner, automatically all good fortune follows. As said before, it is the prime duty of the king or the executive head to give protection in all respects to the peaceful, offenseless citizens of the state. The devotees of the Lord are by nature peaceful and offenseless, and therefore it's the prime duty of the state to arrange to convert everyone to become a devotee of the Lord. Thus, automatically, there will be peaceful, offenseless citizens. Then the only duty of the king will be to curb the dishonest miscreants. That will bring about peace and harmony all over human society. Chakshun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale. Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve. Gauravani Pracharine Nirvise Sansunyavadi Pastyatya De Satarine. Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Pevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here's one of the prime, in fact, the prime duty of the executive head to make sure the citizens are not harassed by miscreants, dacoits, various types of criminals in society. So the government has to be quite strong in that area. And when that's done, then crime will start to go down because the miscreants will not know that if they start doing all of these things, they'll be punished quite severely. We have many examples. We have one that is prominent today in the area of Bihar. There is one sannyasi who has taken the head of the area. His name is Rishi. He's a very close associate and friend of Prime Minister Modi here in India. And Bihar has always been an area of the India where there's been a lot of dacoits, criminals, and that's been flourishing. Since he took control, everything has changed, and this hard crime has practically stopped. He told his police officers that no mercy for the criminals. And before they used to chase them, try to round them up. Now they just kill them when they meet them. And so because of that, even the criminals that are still there in society are walking to the jails in Bihar and saying, please put me in jail because we'll be killed otherwise. So it's, and it's working because people are now feeling more at ease and peaceful within that area, which was never like that before. And you might say, well, that might be quite severe. We see in modern times, criminals, they get caught, they go to court, they hire very expert lawyers, they wrangle their way through the court system, and many times they get free. And once they get free, they're back out doing their same mischief again. Or sometimes the court cases carry on for decades with no solution in hand, spending a lot of the citizens' tax money on all of this judicial activity. And so we see that being a little strong on the criminals, you see that in Islamic countries. There's hardly any crime there because immediately, if someone is a criminal, he's killed. No asking questions immediately. And therefore, crime is practically non-existent. We saw one very strong king in the history of Vedic culture. His name was King Vena. King Vena wasn't actually a leader in the real sense because he didn't recognize Brahminical culture. He thought he was the absolute principle of worship. And of course, he was curbed. But during his reign, he was so strong on criminals that in his kingdom there were no crime. They were fearful of him. So this is the history. Nowadays, in certain parts of the world, people can't walk the streets at night because there are always, especially ladies, they'll be attacked, they'll be vilified in so many ways. That happens. I've seen where criminals, they hang out in like underground trains in New York, and they look for passengers walking along, and then they just grab their briefcase or whatever they're carrying, knock them down, and then run and get away. I've actually seen movies, closed camera circuit movies of these criminals in action. So, yeah, because the government thinks, I don't know, for whatever reason, they don't want to take strong action against such miscreants. But it says here, dishonest miscreants flourish because of cowardly and impotent executive heads of state. And so for whatever reason, I guess maybe the executive heads of state are not much different than the criminals themselves. Of course, there was another example, which is the opposite, where one thief was arrested by Alexander the Great. Prabhupada talks about this. Alexander the Great was a conqueror. He would go into different kingdoms, conquer the kingdoms, and take over and expand his empire. The one criminal, thief, who was a thief, he was caught within the kingdom, and he was sent before Alexander. The criminal said, actually, you're going to punish me, but your business and my business is the same. You're out there stealing other people's kingdoms, and I'm stealing a little bit of material things for my own welfare. So there's no difference between you and me. And Alexander, he was a wise man, actually. He understood, yeah, this criminal was right. So he let him go. That's another example on the other side. Because we see, actually, this is one of the reasons why these leaders don't do anything, because they're criminals themselves. Or they indulge in a lot of illegal activities. And so, whether you are a small petty criminal or you're a white collar criminal, whether you steal millions of dollars or whether you steal a cucumber, still it's dishonest. So therefore, we don't see a leadership in the world. Well, we do in some countries, but not in general. And therefore, crime really flourishes. I know for sure, I have personal experience. There are places in the United States you don't go. You just don't go. You'll be killed. You'll be attacked. The whole area is full of people with machine guns, automatic rifles, all kinds of weaponry. And even the police don't go in those areas. And so, like many of the big cities, Los Angeles, Chicago especially, and other areas, there are areas of crime that nobody goes there, not even the police, to do anything, because these criminals are highly armed and they're more or less organized in gangs also. Once in a while, somebody's arrested just as a tokenism. They pay a fine and they get out again. So this is Kali Yuga. There's no real leadership. And the leaders are no better than the criminals. So Prabhupada ends and says, but the only duty of the king will be to curb the dishonest miscreants. That will bring about peace and harmony all over human society. So you can see how enthusiastic Maharaj Parikshit is simply when he heard a little offense in his kingdom. He immediately mounted his horse and went personally to the scene to rectify the situation. He appears there personally. Even today, the leaders in many countries, they make wars and they send the soldiers into the battlefield and they sit in their offices, as Prabhupada said, smoking cigarettes and watching the war on closed circuit TV and giving instructions from their armchair position. They're not even there in the fight. Leaders in Vedic times, the king was the one that was the first one in the battle. He was out there. He was leading the rest of the troops. And if he was killed, then the battle was over and the other side would win. That's how it was done. And nowadays, there is no Kshatriyas. People fight, but they don't have any culture connected with them. Because a Kshatriya is a person who is expert at fighting and giving protection to others, but is not an aggressor. They do not aggress on other persons' properties. Of course, there was some deviations in that in Vedic culture also. But in general, that's the principle that they follow. They were more concerned about the welfare of the citizens. When Lord Ramachandra was ruling Ayodhya, there was no crime. All the citizens were happy. They were out and about doing whatever they wanted at any time, day and night. And there was no worry about any kind of lawlessness because the rule was so strong. Yeah. But nowadays, unfortunately, because of the effects of Kali Yuga, we don't have hardly any good leadership in the world, and therefore people don't trust leadership anymore. People don't even take part in the elections anymore because they know what is the use. Elections means voting for the person who will do the least amount of harm. So this is how Kali Yuga has expanded. But according to Vedic codes, the leader's first business is not to collect taxes from the citizens. That's also there. But that is secondary to giving protection. And Prabhupada said the leaders also must also make sure that everyone in their kingdom is following some kind of spiritual practice. There was no allowance for atheists. If atheists were there in the kingdom, they were given a special place to stay, separate from everyone else, so they wouldn't pollute everyone else. And they were allowed to live, and they could have their place, but they were not part of the regular society. And the regular society would always have to show in some way that they were worshiping the Supreme Lord, according to their selective religious path. They would allow diversity in faith paths, but as long as someone was following a particular path of faith, which is based on worshiping the Supreme Lord himself, then that person was considered to be a good citizen and was given protection. No one was allowed to become an atheist. Nowadays, atheism is everywhere. Another form of atheism is agnosticism, and all kinds of forms of disregarding and offending the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is today's world. Fortunately, Lord Chaitanya is here. He's come with a message to bring the Harinam Sankirtan throughout the world. Those who take part in that in a very, what we say, strong way, diligent way, they will be protected simply by Lord Chaitanya, and they will also be part of bringing about change within the world like that. And there are other places, such as India, where there are bastions of spirituality that is flourishing, and therefore there is no deviations in people's lives. Everyone is following some kind of religious path. So this is the duty. There are many other duties. They're also meant to collect taxes from the citizens, but they take the taxes not to increase their salary, but they take the taxes and put it back into the society to improve the quality of life for people in general, such as planting trees, digging wells, making roads, all of these things, and also providing medical care for the society. Nowadays, if someone gets sick, they don't have enough money, then They don't get proper medical care or no medical care at all. And now they have this artificial system called Medicaid and Medicare in the United States. You spend a big part of your money into this system. And if you get sick, they put you on a list. And if you get some treatment, you're lucky. And even the doctors are not qualified to treat people properly. That's a whole nother discussion. But this is Kali Yuga. Therefore, everyone is harassed living in the society today because there is no proper leadership. And that's why many of the leaders who take the position of leadership do not remain in those positions very long because they're not qualified and they're kicked out simply by their own misdeeds. Another guy comes in and he does the same thing. He lasts for a few years and he's also kicked out. Whereas you see in the Vedic culture, kings would rule for 30, 40, 50, sometimes even longer. King Kulashekar, he was such a powerful king. And he was always diligent. He was absorbed in hearing Lord Ram's Leela, and he would have many of his devotees, ministers, they would read to him the Ramayana. And when it came to the battle scenes, he would become so animated. Sometimes he would call his armies together and say, let's go help Ram. And he would take his armies and they were saying, what is he doing, you know? And he would be running along with his armies down to a place where the battle that was being described in the scriptures was taking place. So after some time, the ministers got together and said, well, we shouldn't read these sections of the Ramayana where Ram is fighting and he needs help. So they stopped reading like that. So then, because he was such a king that he was absorbed in his idea of protection. So yeah, this is an example of true leadership, real leadership, like that. And the king has to also be Naradeva. He has to be Rajarishi. He should be governed by spiritual principles, advised by the Brahminical society, like that. Many of the kings in Vedic culture, if they had some questions, they would always call their ministers, the Brahmins, present the questions and get the proper answers and act on those answers. Nowadays, the advisors, if they don't advise the king according to what he wants to hear, they're no longer allowed to be advisors. So it's not a very safe system of government, and none of the citizens are getting what they need, and therefore nobody's happy. And then, of course, governments are always figuring out ways to increase your taxes. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam that as Kali Yuga progresses, the governments will tax people so badly that people will leave their homes and go to the forest simply to live. They will not be able to live anymore because all of their money that they earn will be taken away by taxes, practically all of it. So this is how governments are. This is Kali Yuga, Kalir Dosha Nidhi. It's an ocean of faults. But as the verse continues, Asti Eko Mahagun, there is one benediction. What is that? Kirtana Eva Krishnasya. And what is the result? Mukta Sangha Param Bhajet. That Harinam Sankirtan is the panacea for pushing back all of the ills of Kali Yuga and establishing such a yuga on earth. Here I am in Mayapur, and I'm speaking now. My window's open, and all I can hear is kirtan all around outside. And today there is a 12-hour kirtan from 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And that'll go on for 4 or 5 days. The kirtan's everywhere here, and people are taking part, and people are happy, singing, dancing, taking prasadam, associating with devotees, discussing philosophy, learning the process through educational systems, and learning how to worship the deities, how to cook. So many programs for advancement in spiritual life. We want to establish these places all around the world. Mayapur is just one. It's the head, it's the chief, as Prabhupada said, Mayapur is the center of our society. But he wanted Mayapur to be spread throughout the world and every area of the country, every area of the world, where people can actually come forward and get a life that is based on chanting the glories of the Lord, living in a very natural and easy way, and ultimately progressing towards the goal of life. Taktva deham purna janmani naiti mameti surja, going back home and back to Godhead. So as we spread the Sankirtan movement, then we push back the age of Kali gradually. Kali is very enthusiastic in this age. He's already captured many places around the world where people are suffering so much. Last night, Candramauli Swami, not only last night, but for the next 6 nights and the night before, he's performing a drama called The Age of Kali. It's quite an interesting drama. I don't know if it'll be live streamed where you can see it. I think it is. There are many things that you might be able to plug into that. And it's interesting. It's quite animated, and it has a very nice message. Prabhupada also, 1977, the devotees did this same play for Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada liked it very much. Now Maharaj is doing it with a slight different emphasis. It's a little more entertaining. There's a lot of dance. There's a lot of, it's really accompanied by a lot of dance, which really brings out the whole point of the play. So this is culture. This is worship of the Supreme Lord in all forms of life, drama, whatever you can think of, you can worship the Lord in that way. And that is human culture. Because human culture really means God consciousness. Without God consciousness, human culture hasn't really begun. Okay, we'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. You depicted the true picture of Kali Yuga with so many examples of King Parikshit, King Vena, and Kurukshetra, which I've never heard of this pastime, so it would be really nice to.
Yeah, in King Kurukshetra, Prabhupada recites the prayers like King Kurukshetra. Krishna Tvadiya Padapam Advaita Situtame. Very beautiful prayer. There's about 35 prayers spoken by King Kurukshetra. He's a great devotee of the Lord and great king also.
Thank you, Maharaj. Devotees, if you have any questions, comments, realizations, please unmute yourself and ask. If you can't speak, then you can type in the chat and I can read it out for you. And it'll be nice to have your cameras on, please, if you can. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So by the time Guru Maharaj were waiting, so did this Maharaj kill Kurukshetra? Did he appear after? Okay, Jagdish Prabhu is there. I'll ask my question after this. I will give the preference first to Jagdish Prabhu. Jagdish Prabhu, please ask your question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I have a message. You said even countries have karma, and you said that America is 6 years in bad at the moment, and it's going to come out in 6 months or a year's time. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, it's an astrological point within the karma of the country. It's called Sarasati. Sarasati means purification by fire. It's 7.5 years when countries go through that. And it works in 2 different types of results. If the general population is pious, they get the results of their pious activities. If they're sinful, they get the results of their sinful activities, all within that 7.5-year period. So yeah, it's an astrological arrangement. And there is a history describing particularly America as it's gone through Sarasati in different time periods throughout history and what happens during those times. And so, yeah, all countries, I think, go through that Sarasati. I think India also has just either recently come out of it or I'm not sure of their position, but it's an astrological arrangement. Sarasati. Sati refers to fire. Sada, I can't remember the exact. It means purification by fire.
Okay, thank you.
It's an astrological period. 7.5 years. In America, it started on the 26th of January, 2017. If you add 7.5 years, then it'll be probably over in the beginning of July of this year. That'll be 7.5 years.
Thanks, Jagdish Prabhu. Rishabh Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, dear Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all the Vaishnavas. You hear me well?
Very well.
Hare Krishna. I'm just like listening to this verse. It is said that in this verse that curbing miscreants, peace and harmony is established. It is also mentioned that prime duty of a state is to convert everyone to become a devotee of the Lord, so establishing peaceful and offenseless citizens. It is also mentioned in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita that peace and harmony of the state depends on the quality of the citizens. It's on the aspect of Anasankara. It's mentioning that you cannot have a peaceful and harmonious country if you have such a citizen. So how can a pious government curb miscreants if the whole country is full of miscreants? The citizens are miscreants by themselves because of the Vanasankara. So you have any comment on that?
Well, I think I mentioned that when Rishi took over, what was that place? Bihar. There's so much crime. Now, if you take a calculation, the crime has practically ended in that area. He's been in power for a few years now. He's the governor of the entire area of Bihar. And he's a sadhu who wears a saffron dress. He appears in public like that. Now, he's strong. He has his police officers not tolerating anyone. So, to reverse something is difficult. To establish something is more natural. So, but in the world, everything is like that. Islamic countries, especially some of the stronger ones, there's hardly any crime because people are very fearful of the government. Anyone who gets caught with drugs is immediately killed. No questions asked. I was told that, if you're coming into one of those countries and you have poppy seeds are also, can be used to produce opium.
Oh,
Sometimes people use poppy seeds for cooking, for cookies and various things. Even if you have your cookies with poppy seeds on it and they catch you, they put you in jail immediately.
oh, okay. Good to know.
We told that about a week ago by one devotee. So it's very strong in some of those Islamic countries like that. Sometimes they do public executions of these criminals just to show the rest of the population that this is what happens if you break the law.
Hmm. And how strict should we manage our centers and farm communities?
What's the question?
How strict should we manage our centers and farm communities?
Well, we're not a ruling class. Our process is to develop these things according to Srila Prabhupada's direction. We're getting land, growing food. Eventually, when food is developed to a certain extent, then bringing in cows for further development of both the land and the atmosphere. There's a whole science. We should have kshatriyas also within our society as to protect the interests of the society, such as to prevent temples from getting attacked and destroyed, to prevent deities from getting destroyed, prevent devotees from being unnecessarily harassed from outside elements. We've done something small, at least in certain places. We've got these gates now, iron gates in front of the deities. Because we had so many incidents where the deities were left open at night, and people would sneak in, go on the altar, and steal deities' paraphernalia, sometimes steal the deities also. That happened in New Vrindavan, the deities were stolen. So yeah, it's happened in many places actually. So now I think there's a law, all of the deities must have, iron gates in front of the altar, and they should be locked at different times. But that's not enough. You need actually persons who can be there in case there is an attack from the outside. But that's a whole big problem in certain countries, because you have to work side by side with the local authorities also. That's the whole thing. Anyway, we're working on that. That's in the process.
Regarding Kshatriyas, Maharaj, we hear that we are speaking Kshatriyas in the Vedic literature is mostly speaking about kings and generals. But are the general soldiers also Kshatriyas? And what is the difference between their education qualities, approaches between these higher or lower Kshatriyas?
The Prabhupada said the organizers of the temples should be trained in that way. Because if you are a temple president, you're in the role of a Kshatriya.
And usually a general soldier in the army, he's also a Kshatriya?
In theory, but a lot of the wars now are aggressive. Kshatriyas are not aggressors. Of course, you had the Battle of Kurukshetra, where one side of the family was aggressors, claiming that they were the rightful heirs to the throne. So that was the basis of that fratricidal war where Krishna was personally present. And Krishna wanted Dharma to rule, so Krishna was there conducting the whole scene. Prabhupada said that was the last religious war in history. And that was more than 5,000 years ago. Now all the wars are economic. People want to get the resources of another country or the control of another country. So espionage and various types of plans to overthrow countries, to infiltrate, all this goes on. This is the work of Kali. Kali is like that.
Even crusades?
Huh?
Even crusades?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm not sure how that's categorized.
Yeah. Okay.
I take Prabhupada's statement as absolute.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thanks, Rishabh Prabhu. Any other questions, devotees? So, Maharaj, I wanted to ask the devotees in ISKCON who are preaching and basically in form of preaching, they're fighting with Kali Yuga. So, are they Brahmanas or Kshatriyas?
Well, if you're preaching, you're generally in the Brahminical category,
Mm.
but Kshatriyas can also preach.
Okay.
Everyone can preach. And we haven't really designated the Varnashram system, so Srila Prabhupada's instruction was everyone in our society should learn our books and take up the responsibility of bringing more and more devotees into our society. In other words, he wanted everyone to be qualified to be able to preach Krishna consciousness. Some will preach as their service, and others will preach as according to the opportunities that are presented. Our movement is an expansive movement. We're not about some movements. We have our little temple, we have an prasadam, we go on, we worship, and everybody's so-called happy. No, our movement is reaching more and more people. It's active in that way. It's proactive. It's not just, we're always thinking how to devise more and more ideas, programs, and perfect our present programs, bring in more and more people in. Of course, the most powerful and direct way is to distribute books everywhere, to do Harinam Sankirtan, to do programs all around the world in people's houses and in temples, to, think of ways to attract the conditioned souls. That's our movement. Everyone is meant to take part in that movement in some form or another. Either directly.
Thanks, Maharaj. Jagdish Prabhu, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, Maharaj. I've got another question. We say Vishnu and Krishna are the same person, but Vishnu is, I think, 90% of Krishna's, of Krishna. So shouldn't we say we are really a follower of Krishna rather than Vishnu?
Well, I don't know about this 90%. I don't know where that came from, but Krishna's Tu Bhagavan Swayam is the statement, and Krishna is the original supreme personality of Godhead, and he expands himself in different forms of himself for spiritual and for expanding the material world also. So Vishnu is pretty much engaged in touching the material energy and maintaining the material energy. The Vishnu manifestations of the Supreme Lord bring about the creation. You have Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, and in the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha areas, you have the different forms of Vishnu with the forearms holding the different symbols. But Krishna is the source. He is the original supreme. He's called Adi Purush, Govindam Adi Purusham. We sing the Brahma Samhita. So Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma, he has composed these prayers based on his realization of Krishna, showing that Krishna is the source of everything, of all the different forms, of all the manifestations of the Godhead. So Vishnu is a direct expansion of the manifestation of Krishna. The Narayan forms, the Vishnu forms, they're all manifestations or expansions of Krishna. They are non-different than Krishna, but they play a different role in the functioning both materially and spiritually. For instance, the demigods, you have Brahma, he's the creator, you have Shiva, he's the destroyer, and you have Vishnu, who's the maintainer. So Vishnu maintains the material world, not Krishna. Krishna is exclusively in Goloka Vrindavan, performing his pastimes with his devotees, and he also comes to this material world to do the same, to show the conditioned souls what is the spiritual world. So just like it says that when there were so many demons that came to try to kill Krishna when Krishna was in Vrindavan, but when Krishna killed these demons, but it says that the Vishnu manifestation within Krishna actually did the work of killing the demons. Krishna plays on the flute. The Vishnu forms hold chakra, club, conch shell, and lotus flower. So Vishnu does all of the work of killing demons and giving protection like that. But Krishna, he is the manifestation of all of the other forms, and he is the Adi Purush, who also performs activities in this world, which are reflective of the mood of Vrindavan Dham. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself in that mood of Vrindavan. You read these books, and you get all of the understanding. You hear the lectures by Srila Prabhupada, everything becomes clear. It's quite an interesting science. Everyone should take time and read and study this science. It's a very wonderful science. The whole manifestation of the spiritual world and how it unfolds in different aspects of itself.
Thank you.
It's all in Srimad Bhagavatam.
I hope that answered your question, Jagdish Prabhu. And thank you, Maharaj. It was very nice and detailed answer. It helped too. Yeah. Rishabh Prabhu, please go ahead.
Thank you, Maharaj. Regarding the spreading of Sankirtan movement, just to be sure what it is and all the symptoms of it, you're mentioning that bringing more people in, more books are distributed, more Harinams are performed, expanding the preaching directly and indirectly. And I guess Sankirtan movement would be giving the holy name to others and engaging others in Sankirtan movement. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Okay. Can you maybe expand on it?
San means two things. Kirtan means to glorify the Lord. And San means together. So together, glorification of the Lord. Or san also has another meaning. It means complete. There's no more better way to glorify the Lord, no more complete way than through the process of kirtan. The kirtan reigns supreme, and that's why Lord Chaitanya, he came. Krishna Varna, Praza Krishna, Sangoparva Saparshadam, Yajnai Sankirtanai Prayai, Yajantihi Sumeda Saha. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, its 11th canto, explains that Lord Chaitanya has come to spread the yajna of the age, Yajnai Sankirtanai. So there are many yajnas that are being performed and recommended throughout Vedic literature. But the best and most complete yajna is Harinam Sankirtan. It purifies the participants, the atmosphere, and all who come in contact with it.
Just to be sure, when I'm trying to be part of it, just to be sure that I'm understanding it rightly. Thank you. I do have one more question, technical question, if that's okay. It's about people going to the forest, because we are hearing so much about people running from the cities to the forest, and I was just wondering, because government, they claim everything, they claim the forests and everything outside the cities. So do maybe Maharaj, you have some insights how will be possible for the people to even run to the forest? Because
But that's what the Bhagavatam says. In other words, people will be leaving their present residence just to get away from all of the harassment given by government. That's the principle. Don't worry about the details.
Okay. I hope we will have enough farm communities to accommodate them all by then.
Vision. We said we should have these communities. When people come, we can engage them in doing various types of work. And once they get involved with working, then we can teach them spiritual knowledge. Varna, and then ashram.
So there will be like many Shudras, I guess, working on the fields, but they will not necessarily in the beginning coming to the Mangalarati or something. They will maybe later on start to be established in that way.
That's how it's explained.
Thank you.
People will leave. They're not coming for spiritual. They're coming to get away from the harassment of the present Western materialistic society. So the first thing we do is to give them a place to live and some activity to perform so they can take care of their basic needs to live. Once that's established, then we introduce more and more the spiritual aspect. That's
Thank you for confirming it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Bishop. Thanks, Maharaj.
Prabhupada was a visionary. He was not just a philosopher or a priest. He was a visionary. He was in touch with Krishna directly. A lot of things he said were coming from Krishna himself. When he talked about things in the future. So far, everything he's talked about so far is unfolding according to what he said. He hasn't been wrong yet.
I hope to be part of it, part of his vision.
Prabhupada was a Nitya Siddha. He came from the spiritual world to do this work. He wasn't just an ordinary, powerful spiritualist. He was an incarnation to come to bring Lord Chaitanya's movement to the whole world. And that's even predicted. Lord Chaitanya predicted that. there will be a person who will come, he will be my Senapati Bhakta, and he will take my message of kirtan all around the world. There's many in the Puranas by Lord Chaitanya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, many statements predicting the appearance of Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, thanks, Maharaj. And I just wanted to comment on this one about Prabhupada's mercies. We have always felt, as in whenever we go for book distribution or Harinam Sankirtan, like 2 weeks back, we went for Sankirtan Harinam, and we were only 3 of us. And we were begging. There was a big market was open in the center, and we were just 3 of us. No instrument player, no kirtaniyas. Like I don't have a voice at all to sing. But we prayed to Prabhupada, and somehow or other, like devotees, they used to come about 10 years back to the temple. This lady used to sing so nice kirtan. And somehow or other, she appeared on the scene and she did kirtan, and it was so nice. That was the best like Harinam we ever had, like, So Prabhupada's mercy is really, it's, you can feel it whenever you pray pray to him. He does makes the arrangement for you to serve. And
Right.
he's there.
Yeah, if you have that faith and you act according to that faith, you'll see miracles will happen.
This happens. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have to end because we do have an upcoming engagement. So we're right at the hour anyway. It's 1 hour.
Yes, Maharaj. We can close the call. Thank you. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Prabhupada, jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai.
Jai.
Hari.
Hare Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hari.